Well, you've seen that tack jumping all over the place. There's a couple things to check before you go change that out. Now, I don't think it's broke, to tell you the truth. You take the cover off the back, and the cover is like so. You got these two little nuts here, and that's on the back of that, and that is screwed on this, and then you can pull this cover off and you can see what's inside. And make sure there's a little rubber grommet down here. Make sure you don't get that rubber doesn't fall out, or it's corroded or something, and or falling apart. You'll get water inside your tack. Now I'm going to show you. This is on an 89 Harley, but basically a lot of them are the same crap. Isn't a Sportster, okay? But same, a lot of stuff, same thing. This right here, going to the wishbone, that's your ground for your tack. And what you want to do, you can see there's see this here. You got two orange wires, two black wires, and a pink wire. Okay. The two orange wires are the hot wires. Now this orange and black wire is just going to the bulb. Okay, which I have an LED bulb in there, which makes the tack actually brighter. You got the black ground wire, and that goes to, you know, this wishbone, the black wire that's over here on the wishbone. It's just screwed in right here. That's your ground. That's the ground for the tack. So you got power from the orange, and black is the ground to the tack, and you got power from the orange and black to the bulb. The pink wire goes down to your coil. Now you could have a number of things wrong that are making your tack do this. I don't really know what the hell is wrong with it right now, to tell you the truth, but it could be bad ground, which I just checked for. You see it's good. It's 0, right? That's 0 ohms. I checked it from right here, okay, and to there. So if I got this connected and I started up and I got it connected and I got it grounded manually, and the tack is still doing that, well, I know it's not the ground problem, okay? But I was just checking to see if there's something wrong with the ground from this part of the wire into the tack, which means then there's a problem internally in the tack, which probably can't be repaired. But the tack does ground. Now the bulb works fine. What I'm thinking is, and I'm figuring it's got power, and we know the ground is probably good. Well, it is good because I checked it other ways already, but I just wanted to check it internally to the tack, because I checked it from here, one side of the wire, to the body. Then I checked it from this to the body, which means the tack itself will ground, okay, internally. I don't think it's the power cable. It might be the pink wire. Now I got an aftermarket coil on here, and your pink wire goes right here. It's a little dirty. Could be a freaking problem. I don't know. I'm not sure. I think this one wire here comes from down at your pickup, and I should really clean this shit off, and I think I'm going to right now, because that's fairly dirty. So that's what we got our trusty pocket knife for, right? We get this clean and see what happens if I'm going to check. Actually, what I could do is I could jumper right from the coil itself to the tack, instead of using this pink wire, and check it like that. Or I can check the pink wire for continuity. But The other problem is it could be the coil itself. So you could check the ohms between these two right here, and also check the ohms from the high tension wires. But I don't really think, I mean the actual spark plug wires. The other thing is, you can have a bad spark plug wire that's causing a misfire, slight misfire, that's keeping the engine running but making a tach read funny. So you can have so in other words, you really only got three wires that make this tach work. The orange one, which is power, the black one, which is ground, and the pink one, which goes down to the coil. The other orange and black is just for the light. So if the light is flickering and the tach works, you know it's something with this crap, right? With the tach, it could be any one of these three wires, okay? And more than likely, if it's a bad wire, it'll be the ground, because it's kind of exposed over here, but that's not the case. Or the pink wire going to the tach, because that's kind of exposed. I mean, pink wire going down to the coil, because that's kind of exposed to the elements too. But it could be the power wire too. But then, if all these wires check out, and everything's good, all the connections are good, you can have a bad coil, or you can have bad ignition wires, or something like that. It could be the bad ignition wires. Or maybe a problem even with your electronic ignition. But if your ignition wires check out, your coil checks out, and all these wires are good, where it makes contact from, it's got power up here, it's got 12 volts up here, it's got good contact to the coil, and the coil's good, and it's got a good ground, about a 99% chance the freaking tach is bad. So, but I don't know, I'm guessing it might not be, so we'll see. Well, I cleaned up the coil wires really good, and the contacts. Just checking up here for, you know, voltage going into this. It's going in there. It's got about 12 volts. So maybe it is a bad tach. Maybe it is. I think it got wet inside because of that little grommet, whatever the hell it was. Got water in there one time, and I think that's what did it. Now, to check your coil, you got to take all these wires off. You can see I already cleaned this crap up really good. Look, well, maybe I don't know if it looks real clean, but it's very shiny clean now. You take these two off, you take everything off, and you check between these two poles. You should have between 2.5 and 3 ohms between these two. And then on the secondary part of the coil, you should have between 10,000 and 12,500 ohms. And if that's good, and all your wires are checking out good, it could be your electronic ignition, possibly, but more than likely it's a tach. So, I mean, especially if the bike's running, right? So, it still could actually be something else. It could be something even with your cam sensor affecting the electronic ignition, but it's more than likely to tach. And I think the reason this tach went was because of there was a rubber plug in the back here, and I noticed it was open one time, and it started raining. I filled it in though. You can see I filled it in, but it started raining, and the tach started going jumpy. And spread it down with WD-40 and stuff, let it air dry, and the tach was okay for a while. Then every once in a while it would jump, but not too often. But I think ever since it got wet inside there, something screwed up. So that was the problem. I think that's what led to it. But more than likely, sometimes it's just a bad ground, because the one thing that can really affect the tach a lot, besides, these connections up here are sealed, but this ground to the triple tree is something very susceptible, because if this was a bad connection, the bike probably wouldn't run right. But if the bike's running good and the tach's not working right, it could be the ground right there, because that has nothing to do with the ignition system. That is only the ground for the tach itself. So, I hope this helps, but this the tax actually today are not that much money. I think they're only like 60 something bucks or some shit like that. They're not a crazy amount of money. They used to be, that's because they're aftermarket now. They're not OEM. They used to be almost 300 bucks for this freaking tack or some crap like that, of some crazy amount of money. But they don't, Harley, I don't think makes them anymore. It's like the aftermarket makes them different, you know, the same way, but for a fraction of the cost. So anyway, that's a wrap.